Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our Transform Your Warehouse Operations with ScanForce for Stage 100. This is Lori Harris with Micro Accounting, and I thank you guys so much for taking the time today to join us for the webinar. I have Brian with ScanForce is actually going to be doing the presentation for us today. We are going to be focused on the warehouse operations portion of ScanForce. They do have some other solutions, one of which is a mobile sales that we're going to be doing a webinar on next week. But today we are going to be focused on the warehouse operations, and I don't want to steal too much of Brian's thunder, so I'm not going to get too deep into that. But Micro Accounting and ScanForce have been partners for years. We have several clients that are using the solution. It's a great automation tool. It's a great way to add some additional functionality in your inventory and warehouse operations. Just adds a lot to the business that really, does a quick return on investment and is very useful in the Sage 100 world because it is fully integrated, fully automated with the system. So before I pass things over to Brian, though, just a quick reminder, we do want questions, but all of the lines are muted. So please type your questions into the question panel on the GoToWebinar, and then we have a section at the end that is for Q&A, and then we'll make sure that we ask all of the questions there. We did schedule this webinar for only 30 minutes, and so Brian is going to go through all the features, or most of the features, functionality of the ScanForce warehouse operations in this, and then as a follow-up from there, if you guys like what you see in here, then we can schedule one-on-one full in-depth actual live product demos for you after that. So again, please type your questions into the panel. We do have all of the lines muted. We are recording this. So at the end of this webinar, you will get a link that says thank you for attending, and at the bottom of that, you'll have a link to the recording. So you will be able to go back and record it and watch the recording, or you can share it, forward it on to others in your organization as you need to. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass everything over to Brian. Brian, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Great, thank you very much. Thanks everybody for joining in. I'm going to dive right in since our time is sort of limited today. So let's jump into the agenda. I'll give you a very brief overview as to who we are, what we do. I won't bore you with that. Then we're going to talk a little bit about barcodes. Barcodes drive any sort of warehouse management system, or WMS for short. We'll cover a lot of different functions in the warehouse, and we'll lead into a discussion of multi-bin. And that may be a topic some of you are familiar with, maybe completely foreign to others. So we're going to level the playing field to bring everybody up to speed on latest and greatest there. Now, mobile sales, like we said, I'm not going to get into mobile sales today. We have another webinar in this series. It's going to be on Monday the 21st. So you can register for. I hope you will. I'll be joining you for that one as well. And then at the end, we're going to do a quick Q&A. So who we are. And like we said, no need to take notes. You're going to get a copy of this. I promise I don't read screens to you. That's boring. I'm not boring, so I'm not going to do that to you. The highlights here is we've been around for the better part of 2 decades. We're a very remote, virtual company, as companies tend to be these days. We have over 800 installations and over 8,000 Sage 100 users that are banging away on our software all day, every day. So you're by no means a guinea pig in looking at our solution. One thing I do want to point out here, highlighted right there in the middle, it says that we work in a connected and disconnected environment. Real brief, what that means is if you don't have great Wi-Fi coverage in your building, I don't care, that's fine. So once we have the beginnings of a transaction, if I say I want to receive PO number 12345, we'll download that information to the handheld scanner, and your people can go around and do everything they want and need, collecting data. This is the item, this is the quantity you're receiving. I don't need to be connected to Sage to do that, okay? They can even walk out in the yard if you have big bulky things you store outside. Then when we do reacquire the signal, we'll sync up. So it's just one little feather in our cap. It's a very unique thing about our solution, okay? Now, what we do is WMS, Warehouse Management System. That's what most people think of us. We have 3 solutions, and they vary by feature set. And the very first phone call that you and I have together, if we strike your fancy today, will determine what your needs are and which one of the feature sets you would slot into best. It's also very simple to upgrade in our world. Even if you start with our most basic system called Core, if you call us in 6 months or 2 years and say, hey, I want to upgrade 1 level or 2 levels, all you do is pay the difference between the two. You're never going to lose the value you've already purchased. So very easy to upgrade. Down at the bottom there, you see label printing. That's an integrated part of our solution if you need to do that. Barcodes drive any sort of warehouse management system. Manufacturing, you see, we have a full suite there. Whatever you're doing in Sage for manufacturing, we have a corresponding enhancement that dovetails directly into it. Bill of materials, production management, even old work order stuff. Make to order, that one's pretty cool. If you're using production management, it can actually look at your sales orders as they're entered and automatically create work tickets for you, so it cuts one step completely out of the process. Okay. Then at last, mobile sales. I said we would talk about it on Monday, but the real quick tease is if you have people that take orders at a counter sales environment, or if you have trade shows you want to take orders that show floor, if you have outside reps that go sit down with customers and want to take orders, they can do so on a tablet, Apple, Android, what have you, and those flow directly back into Sage. We keep all of the shipping info, all the pricing levels, all that jazz, up-to-date inventory. It's fantastic. You'll give the best possible experience to your customers, and that's, at the end of the day, that's really the name of the game. Okay, so things that set us apart: speed. Other than how fast I'm talking, our software is even faster than that, okay? We did something called the Million Record Challenge. We loaded up 1 million records in Sage and said, go find one discrete piece of information. It returned it in less than 0.03 seconds. That's screaming fast, even in computer terms, okay? Our screen's also very intuitive. If I have the pleasure of doing a personal demo for you later, you'll see how our screens flow. Don't think, oh my gosh, are people going to be able to learn how to do this? Your people can do it in their sleep, because we're not reinventing the wheel on how to receive or how to pick or how to ship. We're just giving them screens regimented, like what's the PO number? What's the first item? What's the quantity? And they'll just be able to walk through it. They could probably do it without any training, even though our training is really great. And the thing that you should probably take away from this that's more important than any other is support. We really view this as a very long-term relationship. We have a great relationship with micro accounting. We would never do anything to damage that by any means. We want to make sure you're happy and they're happy. So you're going to get fantastic support from our company. We don't even offer tiers of support like a lot of companies do, because to us, if you're our customer, we're going to support you, period. We don't need tiers. We don't need you to pay extra to get better support. For us, better support is always the support that we give. And if you don't believe me, ask your reps at micro accounting. They'll back it up. All right, let's talk about barcodes. I love barcodes. I've been in the barcoding industry for over 20 years. I have the nickname barcode nerd, and I earned it with good right. On the left, you see kind of a typical label. You got a bunch of different things. There's a barcode for each of them. But if I were to scan that PO number, that AQ number, how in the world would I aim and hit that one and not get something else, right? Well, look at the one on the right. That's a two-dimensional barcode, kind of like when you go to a restaurant, you scan that with your phone, you pop up a menu. We can encode a ton of information in one two-dimensional barcode. In fact, I can encode the entire Gettysburg Address the size of a postage stamp for you if you wanted to. So I can certainly hold your item code and your lot number or your expiration date, quantity, things like that. Now, the cool thing is when you scan those downstream, I can collect all that data and I can populate multiple data fields in my handheld application for you at one time. Multiple things get tracked with one barcode scan. It's ultimate efficiency. And here's the best part about barcodes. They're never going to lie to you. They're never going to type in the wrong thing or fat finger the keyboard like us humans do. Barcodes are 100% accurate and the fastest data entry method that we have. So barcodes, we love them. That's what drives the system. And labeling is built into our application. All right, let's jump into the WMS and talk about some of the things that we do. And where better to start than PO receiving. Now, the screen that you see there on the right-hand side is probably the most complicated screen that we're ever going to show you. Most of our screens, we're only going to ask the user for one piece of data. What's the PO number? What's the quantity? What's the item? What location do you want to put it in? Those sorts of things. But I wanted to show you the extent that we can go to, the type of information that we can track. For instance, if your vendor has a lot number and you want to record that, we can do so. That's vendor lot. But if you want to assign your own internal lot, we can do that. In fact, you can enter your own, or we can let the system do it for you. Wouldn't it be cool if all your lot numbers started with a Julian date, dash, and a sequential counter? That way, every time you ever looked at a lot number for the rest of your life, you know exactly when it was born into your warehouse, whether it's at receiving or coming out of a manufacturing step. Things like expiration date too. That's just part and parcel to some of the things that we do, okay? Also, when you're receiving, some of you may have items that you buy by the case, stock and sell by the each, or vice versa, or what have you. You have multiple units of measure. I talked to somebody yesterday, they only ship in ton quantities on truckloads, 15 truckloads at a time. I'm in the wrong business. So if you have that issue, on the left-hand side, you see I did a little screen snip right out of item maintenance in Sage. This is an item that I stock by the each, but I purchase it by the case. If you purchase it by the case, it's going to look like this when you get to do PO receiving. It's going to say you need to receive in cases and the quantity remaining is 10 cases. But if you want your people to count the number of pieces to make sure you don't get shortchanged, this little caret right here will drop down and you can select each and it would look like this. And you can see it does the math. If there's a dozen in each case, there's 120 eaches. So we can certainly live up and handle ourselves very well in a multi-unit of measure environment, okay? So there's other ways to do receiving other than just one PO at a time, and that's what we call wave receiving. So if I want to receive multiple POs at a time, if you place 5 POs on a vendor and they send you 1 truck, well, if it's a real common item, you may have the same item code on all 5 orders. That happens a lot in the Sage 100 world, the people that we talk to. Well, if we do wave receiving, to us a wave is just grouping orders together. So if I group these 5 orders together on one handheld, I can say I'm receiving this wave, which includes all 5 POs, and that one item can show up with a total quantity across all 5 orders. So I can receive the total quantity, and as long as it matches, it checks it in on all 5 POs, and then I can do one put away instead of doing 5 individual putaways with people walking to that location 5 individual times. How disorganized and inefficient is that? We're all about building in efficiencies. This is just one of those examples, okay? Now, let's talk about how we're going to store the stuff once we bring it in. I said we would talk about multi-bin. If you're not familiar, Sage from its inception had one location field for every item code. So it assumes that all of one type of item are all sitting on the same shelf, nice and neat, even if that's totally unrealistic in your world, okay? Sage just can't understand the same thing living in more than one spot in the warehouse. That's where we come in. So we authored this multi-bin solution that carries our name. We presented it to Sage, and Sage says, this is so good, we're going to give it away for free. So if you're interested in this, there is a free giveaway version of our multi-bin available from Sage. And your rep at Micro Accounting can help you with that, okay? Now, we have an advanced version of it that's embedded into our WMS that does a lot more, but you can see here in this example, one item, my item 1901 here in one warehouse, my 000 warehouse, look at all the locations where it exists. Look at all the quantities. I can see a full breakdown exactly where everything is, okay? I can have some sitting in a staging area waiting to go out, some here 10 units sitting on the receiving dock that just came in. I've got 2 pick locations. We can also say, I've got a minimum of say 20 units in this location. Once I have sales orders that pick it below 20, it's going to show up on a replenishment report that says, hey, somebody needs to go to this overstock location over here. There's 300 and get enough units to repopulate A120 and bring it back up to its max. These are the kind of functions that are built into our multi-bin, okay? This is seamless. We're a master developer in the Sage world. So when you see this in Sage, when I show you a live demo of this, it's going to look just like regular Sage. You'll wonder why nobody ever showed you this screen before. Well, that's because it's our multi-bin add-on. Again, there's a free version that gives you this kind of visibility. There's an advanced version that does the replenishment. It can also do some more features that we're going to talk about right now, and it's called auto allocations. When you hear allocation, think reservation, okay? If I enter an order and I want to reserve that inventory, the first question is, do I have enough? The second is where, because in a multi-bin environment, that item could be in 2 places or 10 or 20 places. A lot of you do FIFO inventory. That's by far the most common. Now, we all allow for many more options, but FIFO is the most common, so that's what I'll talk about today since it hits the bulk of the market. So if you have the oldest material in one location, we can simply tell the user on the handheld, hey, I've reserved 10 pieces of this item in that location. That's where you need to go and get it because that's the oldest stuff that we want to get out first. It's the whole meaning behind FIFO, okay? And if they're not available, we can say, okay, well, then you can go here and you can get them there, okay? If they're damaged in the first bin, for instance, they can go somewhere else and find them. The system will lead them through this, and we call that function directed picking. So on the handheld, it's going to say, I've created a reservation for you in these unique locations to go get all the items you need to pick. And not only will it create the reservation in a unique location, we actually shuffle the deck and we say, this is the most efficient order for you to pick this. Because imagine if you've got 2 items on aisle A, and then, aisle G further down the line, you've got 1 more item. Well, do you want them to go to aisle A and get one thing, then walk all the way to aisle G, and then have to turn around and go right back to A? Again, that's inefficient. That's contrary to everything we stand for here at ScanForce. So what we do is we bundle the 2A aisle items together to be picked simultaneously. Then let's walk over to aisle G. That's what this directed picking is all about, folks. Okay. Now, I'm going to take a step back here from the generalities and talk specifics. Let's talk about manufacturing. I know not everybody on here is manufacturing. Some of you are distribution centric. So you can grab a cup of coffee. I promise I'll bring you right back in a second. We've only got a screen or 2 on manufacturing, then we'll jump right back into stuff that applies to everybody. But like I said in the onset, if you're using bill of materials or production management, the 2 most prevalent modules in Sage, of course, like I said, we still have work order we can deal with. We have one that dovetails directly into that on the handheld. So once they identify the work ticket or the bill of materials transaction that they're working on, you can issue out raw materials to that job. You can do completions. You can print labels for the finished goods, and it all flows in real time and instantly back in and update Sage automatically. No more paper back and forth. No more interpreting chicken scratch handwriting. Is that a 4 or is that a 9? It all happens automatically from the handheld and populates batches back in Sage, okay? And with production management, we also allow you to enter labor as well. I mentioned the make to order piece before, where it can automatically create the work ticket for you, removing 1 whole step from the process. So we're adding a great deal of efficiency in and around manufacturing. Now, if you are using production management and tracking labor, we'll give you 1 other added bonus. This is the screenshot, at least the top half of a screen, of what we call our management console. We have our dashboards where we have all kind of reporting and things in there, but this is specifically the labor tracking tab. So this is every labor transaction that flows in from the handheld during the production management work ticket process. And you'll notice over here, I've got start times and finish times. Everything that doesn't have a finish time is highlighted in yellow. So from a management perspective, you look at this screen, you can instantly see exactly what's happening on the floor right this moment because they're highlighted in yellow. If they've been done, they're up here. And if you look, this is a 12-minute job, 5-minute job, 2-minute job, and all of a sudden an hour and a half. So what that means is Javier here forgot to clock out when he went to lunch, okay? Well, normally you'd have to go into production management and navigate through, and that's kind of cumbersome. Wouldn't it be cool if all the labor transactions came here on 1 screen and you could just click on this time and adjust it right here, and then highlight that or highlight all of them that aren't yellow and submit them back to Sage all at one time in mass, okay? So we just make handling these labor transactions much, much more efficient for you, whoever's handling that in the warehouse. Okay, all right, everybody that's not a manufacturer, wake back up. We're going to jump back into the general warehousing. Let's talk about pallet tracking. We actually generically call this license plating because not everybody deals in pallets. Some people deal in gaylords or barrels or bags or whatever it is that you store things in. But if you want to track at that bundle level, we can say this pallet right here is pallet number 1001, and we can put a label on it with a barcode, and we can say there's 50 cases on here, and you can put it on a shelf. And 3 months later, if you want to ship that whole pallet, you just scan the pallet and say, I'm shipping it, and Sage knows, okay, we're shipping 50 cases. Or you could put 50 individual things on there, and when it comes time to ship it, guess what? Scan 1 barcode, Sage ships 50 things. You don't have to touch all 50 again. So again, we're building in a lot more efficiencies that way, all right? Now, some other things that we have in the system that are available to you, I don't have specific slides on, I just want to give you kind of a brief overview of these, all right? One of them is called split picking. I'll give you a for instance. Let's say you're in the food business, all right? And you have a freezer section that's at -40 degrees, and you have a refrigerated section that's 40 degrees, and then you have a dry goods or room temperature section, okay? And you have a pick ticket that comes out that's got 3 or 4 items in each one of those sections. Well, we don't want the guy in the freezer section to have to go pick the stuff in the dry goods because he's wearing overalls and he'd overheat, pass out, okay? So what split picking does, we're going to give you multiple options within the system to split that pick ticket into 3 different parts in this case. And so if it's order number, 1001, we're going to give you pick ticket 1001A, 1001B, and 1001C. And you can hand them to different people. They can scan a barcode at the top of that page and get into that transaction, and now they're only picking their unique part, okay? Have another customer, they make big pump type equipment that I can't even fathom what all it does, but they have the big assemblies, and then they have a spare parts division, okay? So oftentimes somebody will order a pump and some spare parts. Well, those are in 2 completely different buildings on their campus. So we, through split picking, can create 2 different pick tickets, so the spare parts people can pick their portion, and the pump people can get the big item, and then it all comes back together under one when we do the packaging. So picking can be separate from packaging, okay? Another one, this one's really cool if you're receiving product in container levels, all right? So a lot of people consider this on the water, all right? So let's say you order something from China or wherever it's coming from. China just the most common. So if you're doing that, it's probably FOB shipping point. So as soon as it leaves their factory, warehouse, whatever, on its way to the boat, it's yours. You own it. That's what FOB shipping point means. So you take legal ownership of it at that point, even long before it's going to hit your dock. So you're going to get an advanced shipping notice, and that ACN is going to list out all the parts and pieces that are coming in the shipment. So what we allow you to do, go into Sage and receive it based on the ASN into a virtual, or I'm using big air quotes here, on the water warehouse. Now, everybody has great visibility in Sage. When you go to item inquiry, you can see exactly what you've got in your warehouse or any other physical warehouse on your operation, but you can also see the virtual warehouse that says we've got 50 more units coming in on a slow boat in China. Now, when it arrives, the users on the handheld are going to have an option called container receiving. And it's going to look just like regular receiving, because we're not going to try to make them learn a whole new system. It's just going to look like regular receiving, but what they're really doing is just verifying that what's in the box looks like what was on the ASN that we received off before. Now, if it does, then behind the scenes, completely transparent to the user and completely automated, we execute a transfer and we move it from the on the water virtual warehouse into your 000 warehouse, for instance, okay? So it just makes the idea of receiving at the container level so much more efficient, and we give you much better visibility. And much like I mentioned in wave receiving, if you have the same item on multiple POs that are included in that container, you can receive them as a mass sum and not individuals. So again, building in more efficiencies, okay? Another thing, Starship integration. Some of you may be using Starship already, others may have heard of it, some of you may be completely new. Well, Starship is another third-party vendor in the Sage 100 world, just like we are, that specializes in shipping. Okay, you do rate shopping and labels for all different kinds of vendors. So we developed a relationship with them, and we have this formal integration. It is very unique. It's something that we co-wrote together, so it's just us and them. And basically what happens, like the way it happens today, we collect data during the picking process and we send it to shipping data entry. From there, Starship sucks it up into their system, and you would go and you would log into a PC into Starship, they click, bang, boom, and you find that transaction, you navigate through, you find the order, and you print your labels, and they spit out on a Zebra type printer, and then your people can go back, grab those, and put them on the boxes that they just packed using our picking shipping application on the handheld. That's fine and dandy, but it's not overly efficient. So again, we look to invent a better mousetrap. So we now have this formal integration. As part of our picking shipping on the handheld, we're just going to pop up another screen for you, allow you to enter the weight, and then there'll be a drop down that's tied to the ship via on the order. So if it's a UPS versus a FedEx or whatever, it will give you the appropriate box package sizes for that carrier. They select it, and it will instantly print out your labels. No more do you have to go and log into Starship, okay? So it's full integration, not a dotted line anymore. It's a full solid line from us to Starship. Your users of the warehouse don't even really have to interact with Starship anymore. It'll just be automatic, okay? Now, last but not least, I want to go back to that management console that I teased a little bit earlier when we were looking at this labor tracking tab. Now I want to talk about this transactions tab. It's really cool because I tell people all the time, we don't really keep data outside of Sage. We update Sage POs, we update Sage sales orders, we update inventory counts, things like that. But we do keep a mirror image whenever we send data from the handheld. If you look down here, you can see I did this on 5/15. I took a picture of this. This is every transaction that was sent from the handheld. I've got sales order shipping. There's a Starship integration, printing labels. Here's some physical counts, some PO receiving and inventory transfer. Here's the order numbers, the purchase order number, sales order number, individual quantities, items, descriptions, the customer, even lots and serials. This is an auditor's dream. If they ever ask you about an item or a lot number, all you have to do is come here to where this cursor is highlighted, type in a lot number or serial number, and you're going to get the full life history. When was it received? Did you move it to 2 different locations? Did you do a physical inventory? Did some of it get used in a manufacturing step? When did it get shipped out, and to how many different customers? All available, one click of the button, and it's instantly there. You don't have to go building queries and writing reports out of Sage, okay? So this is a fantastic management tool for you to figure out who did what, because I can see the user. Now I'm just showing in the initials here, but we can bring in the full name if you want. And you can even see the handheld they worked on. And once you develop a view you like, you can move these around, hide columns, add columns. You could come up here and you can save it as a specific view that you can come back to anytime you want. You can even export it to a PDF and print it out and take it to a meeting, or pull it into an Excel spreadsheet and massage the data offline. Okay, so this really puts a bow on the ability to see everything that happens in the warehouse. Okay, now that's the end of my presentation. We've reached the end of our time, so we do have a little bit of time for Q&A. And if your questions don't get answered today, I promise we'll get them answered via email, or we'll have a phone call. And if we did pique your interest on any of the topics you saw here today, if you think there's value add, if we can, add some inventory accuracy or create some labor efficiencies for you, tell your micro accounting rep. They'll call me, I'll get on the phone with you, we'll talk through, we'll get as deep into the weeds as you want to, okay? All right, I'll turn it back over to you folks.
Awesome, thanks, Brian. So I know we covered a lot of information there. We have had a couple questions come in. If you have additional questions, please type them into that question panel. Like I said, a lot of information covered in a short period of time. So if you had, if you saw a little bit that you heard a little bit that you want to think more about, or if you just said, oh, that was way too fast, I need a presentation just focused on us where I can really focus in a little bit more, just let us know that. We're happy to schedule those one-on-one demos. If you will follow up with everybody who attended today, but if you know that you want a demo, if you want to type that into the question panel to say me, we'll make sure that you guys are one of the first ones that we call back. The couple questions that have come in is, one question was, is the lot number required? And the lot number is not required. So if you are using lot items or serialized items, those numbers are required. But if you're not using a lot or a serialized item, then you wouldn't even see that field on the screen to put in a lot number. So it's just driven based on how you have your items set up. Another question came in about pricing. So pricing is at a very high level. There's a handheld price, and then there's a base warehouse management price, and then there are some of those add-on modules for like that wave picking, the directed, some of that, some of those advanced features. So when we do a one-on-one presentation with you and demo, we'll ask you questions, and so we'll uncover basically what the solution would look like for you, and then we can put a formal quote together for you on that. And then the next one, the only thing that was put in was multi-bin, basic and advanced question mark. So I'm not sure what that question is exactly, but I'll elaborate a little bit on multi-bin, and then if you have additional questions, I type them into the chat, or you can ask us when we follow up. But basically, the multi-bin basic is a module that is part of inventory, Sage 100 inventory, that's licensed through Sage. So if you are not using multi-bin today and you want to, we can order that multi-bin basic module to have it activated. It is free of charge, as Brian mentioned. So then that would get activated on your system, and then we can have a consultant help you get it set up so that you can start using it. If you depending on how you're going to use multi-bin, and if you are going to use the ScanForce warehouse automation, there's a good chance that you may need the product called multi-bin advanced. So that many times that'll come with the ScanForce order that's placed, but that's really the difference between the basic and the advanced. The basic is the free version that comes with Sage that you are entitled to a license as part of your inventory module, and then the advanced version is kind of that additional functionality that we would buy through ScanForce.
And that's all the auto allocations and replenishment reports and things of that nature that I mentioned. Those are included in the advanced.
Okay, perfect. And then the next question is, what is the difference between on hand and inventory remaining? Brian, did you talk about inventory remaining for something? I might have missed that.
Well, I don't recall, but I was going so fast, maybe I forgot. But basically, we're not changing anything in Sage. Sage is still the repository of all the data. So the same buckets that you see in Sage, like on hand versus available, those are different. You have 1,000 on hand, but if 400 are reserved on sales orders, you only have 600 available. We don't change any of those numbers. We just update the transactions that feed those numbers. Okay, so the buckets in Sage will not change.
Yeah, and so the buckets and change, to elaborate on that, you're on hand, you can not include what's on sales order, what's on, you're available on what's on sales order, what's on purchase order, what's committed, all of that can all come into play there. And I think that was our last question. We are 2 minutes over. So I thank you guys for hanging in there. The screen that's popped up now, as I said, we will follow up. The account management team will follow up with each attendee on this webinar. But if you know that you would like to be reached out to ASAP, or you have a question right away, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. This is Lori Harris, lharris@microaccounting.com, or if you email our AM team at microaccounting email that's on the screen there. That's actually a group email that goes to our entire account management team, including myself, and then we will follow up with you from there. So thank you all so much for attending today. We appreciate it. I hope you found this valuable, and we look forward to connecting soon. Brian, thank you so much for doing the presentation today. And
we'll see everybody on Monday for our mobile sales presentation.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. So for anyone interested in mobile sales, to automate some of that sales process with Sage 100, that is next week, and that is on our website. If you go out to the website for that, or if you email the AM team, we can send you a direct link to that as well. All right, everybody have a wonderful day, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Take care.